happy Sunday and happy final day in April, which is particularly exciting because tomorrow is officially the start of May Chaos Reign. If you don't know what May Chaos Reign is, there will be videos in the description explaining this in a lot more detail, but it is effectively a writing community event that I'm hosting together with the Chaos Queens. We have a whole bunch of prompts and we are going to be kicking this off bright and early tomorrow on May 1st by going on a hike for my self-care prompt.
Wish that I could stay in this moment forever, so I can hold you in my arm. I will carry you on my shoulders as long as I'm able. Scare the monsters under your bed, deep and abiding. Liking for you is all I need. Until my heart gives in, I will do everything I can for you.
Hello there, it is the 6th of May, it is Saturday, specifically Coronation Day in England, which is perfect for the Queen theme of this video. Not that I'm doing anything special for Coronation Day, but we are working on May Chaos Reign prompts and I think that should count. So here's where we're standing on the prompts. Last week I went hiking, so that completes the self-care prompt. And after the hike I watched How to Train Your Dragon, which is based on a book. I participated in the May Chaos Reign kickoff stream, which counts as me watching the stream because I was watching it while being in it. And I've also started working on the reading prompt. I am currently reading The House on the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune, and this is a reread for me. I have read this before, but it was just under 2 years ago now, I think, and I've been really looking forward to rereading it. When I finished it last time, I wanted to just go back to the start and reread it immediately, but I stopped myself from doing that because that's not a good thing to do. And now it's been a long enough time that I felt I could reread it again, and I've been enjoying it so much. I wasn't planning on rereading it this month, but I just went through all of the books I had in my Kindle library, and this was genuinely the only one that had any sea theme on the cover or title. So I just picked it up again because of that. But honestly, because I just started my new job, it's been 2 weeks at this point. And the amount of new information and stuff that I've been having to learn that's been cluttering my brain has been quite a lot to deal with. And I'm just enjoying reading this book that's very cozy. There's not a lot to keep track on. I've read it before, so I don't really have to think. And it's just, it feels like a nice warm blanket at the end of the day. And it's just so fun and nice to read. And it's been very good. I don't think I could have handled reading a new book this month. So today I actually want to start working on the writing prompt, which is a plot bunny writing day. And me and Crystal both specifically wanted this on our prompt list because it's something that none of us ever do. I have been working on Project Side on and off since 2016, and there's only been one time in those 7 years, holy crap, that I worked on a different book project that wasn't Project Side. And that was for a write-a-thon back in 2021, I think. And that is the same story that we're going to be picking up today, because I don't want to have 3 stories in progress now, do I? Now that'd be silly. This story is something that I've only worked on for this one weekend ever, and at the time I wasn't using Notion yet. So the first thing that we're going to do today is set up a Notion page for this project, and I'm so excited. So I just finished setting up my Notion page. It's literally just 3 empty pages in 2 columns. It's the simplest thing in the world. I spent more time on getting the right emojis than anything else. We seem to have gone for a purple theme, which wasn't on purpose. It wasn't planned, it just sort of happened. Apparently most of the witch emojis that are available are in fact purple. But I'm very pleased with this because I actually have some plans for using gemstones and flowers and stuff like that as part of the magic system, which, by the way, this is in fact a witch story, if you hadn't guessed. So I think I can actually use the purple theme in the book as well, and in the book cover, and I'm just very happy with that revelation. It wasn't on purpose, but I'm excited for it. Now I have to do the actual work to work on this block bunny and do some brainstorming. Don't really know what I'm brainstorming yet, but we'll manage. Hello again. It is raining very heavily at the minute, and I've been sipping my tea and doing some brainstorming, and I'm having the best time right now. I'm very excited about the story, and I kind of just want to work on it, but I am gonna be going back to project site tomorrow. But I'm really enjoying this. I should work on different books more often. For the most part, what I've done is just sat down and put into Notion everything that I already know about this story, and that took like the first half an hour or so. And then after that, I spent an hour just brainstorming out the magic system and the different types of magic that I want to have. And I don't really know what to do next. I could work on brainstorming out the characters, but I don't really feel like doing that at the minute. So I think what I'm going to do is try and put together a project playlist for this, and then listen to the project playlist while I do some crochet and do a little bit more of like passive brainstorming and just sort of be immersed in the story without forcing myself to come up with ideas, and just hope that like something else sparks up while I'm crocheting and working on my playlist. But if it doesn't, no big deal, because I'm crocheting, and this is really my favorite method of brainstorming, if you hadn't guessed. I love crochet and brainstorm time. But before I crochet, I'm gonna have to come up with some songs that fit this book, which I'm very excited about because it's a very happy, sort of heartwarming story. It's very colorful. I really like the world. Like, one of the things that I like best about the story is the potential for art. When I get to work on it and publish it, hopefully one day, I'm so looking forward to making prints and like merch and bookmarks, and like I've already got so many ideas for things that I want to draw for it. I think I'm more excited for the artwork than for the story, let's be honest. It's definitely a no plot, just vibe sourcing at the minute, but I'm having fun, and that's what counts, right? But yes, I'm going to make a playlist, and my project site playlist is what my boyfriend likes to call suicide music. It's all very angsty, depressing songs, and this is gonna be very nice, fun, exciting songs, and I'm gonna go look for some and put them in a playlist. So I've been crocheting and listening to music for nearly 2 hours at this point, and I'm really enjoying it. I would love to keep going, but my shoulder and my hand are starting to really hurt, so we're gonna force ourselves to call it a day and no more crocheting for today. The playlist is going pretty well. I struggled at first because I added a bunch of songs. I tend to start by adding as much as I can find that even slightly resembles the story, and then I'll get rid of things afterwards. And I was adding a bunch of things, but nothing was really feeling right, and then I stumbled into some instrumental songs, and I really think that they fill the story so much better. I ended up basically, this playlist is 50% instrumental violin music, which I think is just the right vibe for this book, so I am still leaving some of the songs with lyrics on for now, in case there's any that I feel very strongly about. But I think most of those are just gonna disappear, and this is just gonna be an instrumental playlist. And yeah, I've worked on this book for 4 hours total today, which I'm not sure if that constitutes a writing day, but it's as much as we're getting because I'm really tired. So this was really fun. Tune in tomorrow for the next May Chaos Rain event that I have planned. Very excited about tomorrow. Hello, today we are tackling not one of the C prompts, but one of the prompts that's on the bingo board, and that is treat yourself like royalty for a day. So as any good queen should, I start off the day by making myself pancakes for breakfast, which were absolutely delicious, and now I've gotten dressed in a very pretty dress that I'm pretty sure last time I wore this was for a christening 4 or 5 years ago. I don't get out of the house much. I'm wearing something that makes me feel very royal, very queen-like, and I am going to go outside. The plan was to go to a castle, but it is closed today and it was raining for all of Saturday, so we couldn't go on Saturday. But there are some gardens near the castle that you supposedly can see the castle from, and those are open, so we're gonna try that. And on the way to that, we're gonna be getting some bubble tea, because I'm a queen and I deserve it. Hello, happy Saturday. It is the 13th of May, which means that I have 2 more weekends in May during which I can participate in May Chaos Reign. I am hoping that I will be able to finish all of the prompts this weekend, but we'll see, because the one that I have left is the big one. As a very short update, this is what my bingo board currently looks like, and the main prompts that I'm missing are just the reading prompt, except I'm over 70% through the book, so I'll be finishing that either tonight or tomorrow night, and the making prompt, which I haven't started on yet. And it's the one that I'm most excited for. I've been looking forward to it. So, what are we making for the making prompt, you may ask? Well, I have decided that for this prompt I would like to draw the map in which the project side story happens. Specifically the map of the base where they spent most of the time. At the later point of the book, they actually go into the forest and it's like a different environment. We're just gonna stick to the base and like start with the very small place, and then the bigger world we can get to at a different point, because I have no idea how to draw the whole world. She says, knowing full well she also has no idea how to draw the little world, but we'll manage. I have never drawn a map before, with the exception of this one map I did for a video game that I did with my boyfriend a couple of years ago, but like, that barely counts, because it didn't have to be functional. I don't know exactly how to go about this. I've been looking at a couple of images on Pinterest this morning, and I also follow a couple of map making accounts on Instagram that I've been looking at for a while for inspiration, and I think the style that I like best would be something like isometric type, where you can actually see the buildings rather than just like a top-down approach. Because it's for such a small location, I think it'd be really cool if you got a little bit of detail of what the world actually looks like, but in like a map shape. This sounds really, really difficult, because not only do I need to know where things go on the map and make it look half decent, I also need to know what the buildings look like. And I don't really know what the buildings look like. I'd like it to make sense with the type of environment that they're in. I want the buildings to be durable enough to work against the weather, but I also want them to be simple enough that the amount of people that live in this place could have built them themselves, so like previous generations could have built them themselves, because they don't have that many tools or access to large crowds of people. And yeah, it's just a lot to think about. It's honestly surprising just how much stuff is going on in my brain when trying to make decisions about this. Just when I was looking at Pinterest this morning, like I was trying to figure out stuff, and there's so many things. This is so difficult. Anyone that makes maps, you're amazing, and I don't know how you do it. This is really hard, but we're gonna try it anyway. I have had this notebook lying around since Christmas that my dad got for me, and it's really pretty. It's got like this hand-painted cover with like a book with stuff coming out, and I thought this would be perfect for like bookwork, but I do all of my bookwork in Notion. So what we're using it for instead is gonna be for any sort of visual brainstorming that I want to do without getting my drawing tablet out. And I think this is the perfect excuse to start using it. So I am going to start by just brainstorming some kinds of like different buildings that I want to have in here, what I want to actually do. I have no idea what we're doing or how we're starting, but we're gonna do something in here, and then we'll switch over to my drawing tablet later when I know where I'm going with this. Hello, happy Sunday. Yesterday I spent most of the day on just sort of researching different types of structures, different types of materials for buildings and stuff like that. It was very fun. I went down a massive research spiral, but I really enjoyed it. I ended up designing what most of the dorms are going to look like and like what building type I'll be using for some of the other structures, and what the lighthouse is going to look like. I do have quite a lot of other buildings that I haven't designed, as well as some of the perimeter fences and the actual gates that I haven't designed. I think that's fine because I've got a pretty clear idea of what those sections look like in my head, so I think I'm ready to just go straight into digital and start fiddling around with things. Unfortunately, it is 11:30 and I have spent the entire morning procrastinating, and the main reason for that is because over breakfast I decided that it would be good to just watch some map drawing time lapses type videos, just to like start thinking about how I'm going to implement some of this stuff. And I got very overwhelmed and there's no way that I can do anything as good as what I've been looking at. It's just not possible. I'm not that good. So I'm just having all of these like self-doubt type feelings and like, what's the point in even trying if nothing I can do is going to be even remotely as good as it is in my head. But we're gonna not listen to those thoughts and we're going to give it a try anyway. It was just the first draft of the map. This is not going to be the final version that ends up in the book because the book is not realistically being published for another 3 to 5 years. So I've got plenty of time to learn how to do this properly and do a second, third, fourth, fifth revision of the map before it actually ends up being something that is decent enough to be in a book. But right now, this is just for me, and it's just for fun, and it's just a make chaos brain prompt. So let me just get my drawing tablet set up, and I'll show you how we're gonna go about this. Hello, so as you can see, we have a scary blank canvas in front of us, but let me still show you sort of how I set this up in order to get started actually making a map. The first thing that I was looking at is sort of like what this would actually look like in a book, because even if it's a first draft, I would like to get the dimensions right, just so that if I like it more than expected, I can sort of reiterate on this version rather than start from scratch again, even though I will probably end up starting from scratch. I don't know, we'll see how much of a disaster this is, but we might as well be prepared for it to go well. So the way I decided to do this is to have 2 pages of the size of a default Amazon paperback, because that's probably how I'm going to be publishing this, even though I don't really know yet. And I've got this guide, which is the space between the 2 pages. So ideally, I would like to avoid having any detailed drawings on that space there, because it's gonna be more likely to cause problems if it's across 2 pages. Amazon does have an option that lets you have something called bleed, which is basically when you can go outside of the margins with pictures. The problem with this is that in that case, the entire book has to have bleed, even if you're only using this in 1 page, which I'm assuming is going to be a more expensive printing option, which means that I would make less profit on this. But I can worry about that when we get there. I can always redraw this as a single page horizontal layout if I change my mind about this. But for now, this is what we're gonna be attempting to do. And then the other thing that you might notice if I zoom in, I'm not sure you'll be able to pick this up very well on camera, but I've got these like lines, which is basically just an isometric grid template to make my life easier, so I know exactly what angle to use for different buildings. And what I have on my actual monitor at the minute is this, which is a Notion page for the actual map of the base and where things are. So what I was doing yesterday in here was figuring out what the buildings actually look like, but the first step is going to be placing them. So if I get rid of that again, what I'm going to be doing first is just figuring out where to put things in this layout, because obviously the other layout is like a really square sort of circular thing, and I'd like it to have some more visual interest. It is a very circular map with some of the most important elements in the middle, which is gonna be a problem because of that bleed thing that I mentioned and the page gap. But I'm hoping I'll be able to figure it out, like if instead of putting the lighthouse exactly in the middle, I put it slightly over here and then the hospital over here, and like I'm not entirely sure where the gate goes, I guess like this area. So yeah, I'm just gonna start by like having a very rough sketch and like a floor plan effectively, but like an isometric floor plan. And then once I have that layout done, I'll be actually going and adding the vertical layer and actually drawing the buildings out. This looks very scary and overwhelming already, but let's see what we can do. After staring at the blank canvas for a little bit too long, I started drawing out the foundations of each of the buildings into the grid. This really didn't take that long since I was just following what I had on my previous map, and it wasn't until I started drawing out the buildings that I started noticing a bunch of problems in this layout. The way I've always described / visualized things is that the entrances to buildings are always facing the center of the camp and sort of building outwards, but when I started drawing it out like that, some of the buildings feel that too close to each other, with doors basically facing directly each other, which really didn't look very realistic. The angles were sort of awkward at other places, and it just didn't seem like a realistic layout that people would actually use. It seemed very inconvenient. So I made a few changes at this point, moving buildings around until I had something that was a little bit more feasible, but still kept this original idea of having the main buildings towards the center and then the dorms and less important buildings towards the outskirts. I also changed the position of some of the dorms, especially the ones that aren't crucial to my story. For example, Team 2 has been described many times as being to the west of the camp, and I really didn't want to change that, especially since there's many times when I was writing where I stopped to figure out the position of the sun respecting the characters as they leave the dorm at Team 2, so I really did not want to be messing with that particular layout. On the other hand, Teams 4 and 3 haven't been described in nearly as much detail, and it made it a lot easier for them to switch positions with each other in terms of just like the size of the buildings and how to place them without them getting in the way of other things or being hidden by the massive lighthouse tower in the middle. So I ended up switching those. Also, this change worked a bit better with the new, not quite as central position of the hospital, since Team 4 is the medical team, so they need to be closest to the hospital, and now they are. This stage of the process was the shortest one, but it was the one that required the most thought, and that really made me think about my story and how things are positioned. It was very useful to do this, like even if I had stopped the process at this like sketchy stage, the map is absolutely not useful to be used in a book whatsoever, but for actually writing the story, this stage was like where I needed to get to for me to figure things out. But alas, I wanted something that actually looked good as well, so after tweaking everything until I was happy, it was time to actually start drawing things out properly. And this stage took by far the longest. I spent about 11 hours on this in total, and 4 hours were initial research, brainstorming and building design, 7 hours with drawing the map, and I'm not sure how long the floor plan took out of the 7 hours, but I don't think it was more than an hour, so all of this detailing took about 6 hours in total, and it's not even that good, so I tried to think how long it will take to do this properly in the future, but I digress. So in terms of the style, I was trying to optimize this for printing, so I decided to fill in the different buildings in grey since I won't be printing this in color, but I think it just looks a little bit too flat and boring, and it's missing any sort of detail or personality. The camp is supposed to be old, but nothing on this map looks lived in. I tried adding a few details to the lineup to begin with, but they are barely visible when you zoom out, so for the later houses I just stopped bothering adding them. And I just think I could have done a lot better in terms of the art style. Like it's decent enough, especially for a first attempt, and I think it's gonna be really useful to have this as a reference while I'm working on the books. But when it comes to actually publishing the book, I would like to redraw this from scratch, and I'm thinking of using maybe a hatching style shading for the next version instead, and just having line art. I think that's gonna work a lot better. It's also gonna be a lot more difficult to implement, but I'll just have to experiment with this a bit more and see what I can come up with, and just keep trying until I come up with something that I actually like. Other than the style, some adjustments I'd like to make in future versions are adding actual gates to the perimeter fences, which I somehow managed to completely forget about, and also tweak some of the sizes of the buildings. Because I was relying very heavily on the grid, I ended up making some buildings a little bigger than I would have liked, but then I didn't want to shrink them after the fact because I was trying so hard to keep the line thickness consistent across all buildings. But when I redraw this from scratch at some point, I'll definitely be tweaking that. I would also like to play around with fonts and text placing a bit more, but I was getting quite tired towards the end, so I just went for the first decent font I could find. I actually have a small confession to make. I did not finish the map during the month of May. It took about 3 weeks for me to do this in little chunks, mostly just working on this during weekends. But during the final week of May, I was traveling, so I didn't finish this before my trip, which means that I technically didn't finish all of the prompts. However, I did do 90% of this in the month of May, so we're still gonna count it because I want my crown. I also finished reading House on the Cerulean Sea sometime during the month, and I don't think I ever mentioned it, but that's ticked off as well. So that means that I am giving myself the Sea Queen badge and the Sea Star badge, which I am very happy with. I am also very happy that I didn't attempt to complete the Sky prompts as well, because I could barely manage one set of prompts in the time I had. Just before I wrap up this video, I just want to thank everyone that participated in Make Chaos Reign so much. Whether you just tackled a couple of the prompts or went full-on completionist with the unofficial Team Horizon, it's been so much fun seeing everyone get involved and interpret the prompts in different ways. Thank you for making a little corner of the internet so special, and I make no promises, but I absolutely cannot wait to see what we come up with next year. Thank you so much for watching. I know this was a really long video, but it was a very fun one to make, and I hope you enjoyed it. Feel free to subscribe for slightly more writing-heavy writing vlogs coming up in the future. And if you want to support my channel, please leave a like, because apparently that's supposed to help the algorithm. Also leave a comment and let me know if you participate in this event and which badges you managed to get, and also which one your favorite prompt was. I will see you very soon. Bye bye.